Terrific Tuesday and welcome to RelateWell Conversations. Please get comfortable. We're going to talk about relationships. When you relate well, you live well, love well, and you lead well. So if you're new to RelateWell Institute, Dr. Richard Marks there is the founder and CEO, and I am Miko Page, the Chief Operating Officer. Our vision is to empower transformation in individuals, couples, businesses, and churches and equip them with the skills for healthy and mature relational growth. Now, please feel free to leave questions in the chat during our teaching time together. We will answer those questions. There was one question that was submitted earlier, so we will answer that question first, but we will answer your questions as you provide them in the chat. Please feel free, engage with us. Let's use those icons. Let us know how you're feeling about what we're sharing. Leave those comments in the chat. I'll be monitoring those as Dr. Mark shares during his teaching time. Okay. And I have the opportunity to bring the quote for this RelateWell Conversations session. All right, so my quote, I think, pairs very well with the content that we're sharing today. It's by Rick Warren, and this is the quote. What's the purpose of problems and difficulty? God wants you to learn something. Every storm is a school. Every trial is a teacher. Every experience is an education, and every difficulty is for your development. Okay, there's a lot there, but we're going to unpack that more in our teaching time. So let's roll with our question that was submitted in advance. Okay, so Dr. Marks, this question was submitted, and I'm assuming the person is married because they were talking about their marriage. So here's the question.
By the way, for all those that don't know, I don't get to see the questions ahead of time. I had a radio show for 4 years, and people would write questions, and my host, Angelia, she said, I'm not going to tell you the questions ahead of time. She said, you are really good on the fly. So Miko doesn't give me the question ahead of time. You get raw Rick. All right, go ahead.
So let's fly. Okay, here we go. I have set clear boundaries within my marriage that have been draining for me, and the resistance has been relentless. How do I deal with the emotional roller coaster of guilt, grief, and pain without building up a wall? My mind and heart don't seem to align. My mind tells me to leave, but my heart is holding on for hope. How do I get them into alignment and move on with my life?
In other words, a person's not changing and they're trying to keep the boundaries going. But the longer the boundaries are being disrespected, they're becoming resentful. They don't want to become resentful. So how do you keep a heart of love, in a sense, while at the same time being hurt?
Yes.
You won't. This is one of the things that people need to understand, particularly in the church. It is very difficult to feel. You can always act loving, but it's very difficult for the brain to feel love for someone who is a source of pain. Mm-hmm. And if someone continues to disrespect you, they're prideful, they're disrespectful, they treat you with ill will, they're uncaring, which is a lack of empathy. Whatever those behaviors take, they're teaching you not to bond to them. Mm-hmm. Here's why. You can't, bonding takes two. We say in our world, it takes two to make an us and one to kill it. You can try all you want to bond to someone, but if they do not want to bond back, it's impossible. Even scripture admits that in Romans 12:18, where Paul writes, if at all possible, meaning something's not possible. If at all possible, as far as it concerns you, Rick Marks, be at peace with all men. In other words, what Paul is saying is, in all your relationships, Rick, you bring peace to the relationship. However, peace may not be possible because they may not want peace with you.
Mm-hmm.
My responsibility is just to bring peace to the relationship. Whether we have a peaceful relationship or even a relationship is up to them as well, to making us want to kill it. So if someone keeps sending the message, I don't value, I don't value, I don't value, then here's the sad part. When I left, I graduated my two masters and my doctorate. My two masters in 1990, my doctorate in 94 from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. I was theologically trained as well as clinically trained. I had this ideal. I hate to say it, but I was pretty idealistic that every relationship can be saved. Mm-hmm. And here's what I learned. That isn't true. Even the God who hates divorce is also the same God in the New Testament who permits it. Why? Because he recognizes some aren't going to make it. So he limits it to three areas: abandonment, adultery, and a hardened heart. Mm-hmm. Even Jesus acknowledged someone with a hardened heart will kill a marriage off. He says it himself. So my responsibility is, no matter what, always be loving. That means treat people goodwill and respect, because that's about me and my integrity. That's the person that I'm going to be. Whether we have a relationship takes both of you. Right. And if someone consistently treats you in a disrespectful way, devalues you, I have a phrase that I say a lot, particularly our marriage intensives. Never treat a person on a regular basis in a way that creates conversations in their mind they never want to have. In other words, I don't want to treat Luella, my wife, on a regular basis whereby she starts thinking, does he love me? Mm-hmm. Does he respect me? Does he value me? She will have those thoughts based on how I treat her over time. But here's the second part of that. Never treat a person on a regular basis in a way that causes them to make decisions they never wanted to make. This is why I've said many people earned their divorce. Mm-hmm. You did what it took to get divorced. And so we are anti-divorce. Anybody knows me, you come to me, we're here to save something. Yes. We're not here to destroy it. However, it takes two to make it and one to kill it. And if both are not willing to work towards building an us, then let's be honest. You can be married and have no love. Mm-hmm. You can be married and have no love. And we think that God is impressed that you're staying married, but there's no love. I go, no, it doesn't say, the scripture doesn't say the greatest of these is not divorcing. It says the greatest of these is love. If longevity is the goal of marriage, my grandparents, Nanny and Granddaddy, they did really, really well. 63 years.
Wow.
Oh, Miko, if love was the goal, well, they failed. They hate each other the whole 63.
Woo.
But they're pre-Vatican II Catholic, and pre-Vatican II, if you divorced, you went to hell. So they didn't want to go to hell. So they stayed married and made life hell.
Wow. Oh.
For everybody. Mm. You see, was God pleased? No, because there was no love. Mm-hmm. There was no love. And so I think to whoever wrote that, I would say, you, no matter what, always hold your integrity. Treat people with humility, respect, and goodwill. That's your integrity. That's bringing peace to a relationship. But yes, if they continue to mistreat you, then they do put you in a position to have to make decisions about what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And when someone treats you over time enough where you're convinced that us is not possible, well, now they put you in position to decide what you want to do with that. Right. This is why I've had to tell many people over 30 years in this field, you know what you're married to. You need to quit complaining. They've made it clear they're not changing. So if you choose to stay in it, you need to quit complaining now. You are choosing the dysfunction.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're choosing it. All right. So that's a hard pill to swallow.
It is. Mm-hmm.
But it's also reality.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. And we're going to transition to our topic. The topic tonight. Oh, I hope just listening to the topic, you can just feel it in your bones. If you've lived any length of life, you have experienced discomfort from growth. And so the topic is the comfort trap. Why growth begins where your comfort ends. So take it away, Dr. Marks. Send those comments in the chat for me. I'll be monitoring them.
Okay, so I've got a quote by a guy named Scott Cleary. Listen to this. He says, "There's something nobody warns you about success. It doesn't fix the things you thought it would fix. You just become a more comfortable version of the same person with the same problems. The problems upgrade. You don't. You don't." And so what we're really going to be talking about today is, in order to grow, you have to move into, we say that in order to grow, you have to move out of the comfort zone. Listen to this quote or this statement. "Growth is impossible without movement, and movement requires leaving the comfort of what is familiar. Comfort keeps us safe. Growth makes us stronger. Every meaningful transformation in life requires uncertainty, humility, courage, and action." I do a lot of teaching around the country. I do corporate trainings on emotionally mature leadership. We train in churches. We do marriage retreat seminars. We do retreats for singles. I do fatherhood conferences, seminars, do a lot of things. Have you ever noticed that whenever you go to learn something, it gets uncomfortable? Why? Because learning is uncomfortable, because you have to embrace the uncomfortableness of learning, because sometimes you're going to learn something that goes against something you believed. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get frustrated with that. No, I don't agree. Well, just because you don't agree doesn't mean it's not right. And so learning means you have to embrace the uncomfortable. And you have to be excited about that. Because learning.
Get excited about being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly. So here's a question for you folks. When was the last time you intentionally did something that made you uncomfortable because you knew it would help you grow? So let me tell you, Rick Marks, I tend to be a creature of habit. I have my way of doing it, particularly my traveling. And so I always like to know flights are ahead, where I'm staying weeks ahead of time. If I got a rental car, I have all that planned ahead of time. And then my daughter, who was living in Dubai at the time, and my youngest son, who was living in Amman, Jordan time, my wife and I went over there to visit them for 2.5 weeks. And Madison takes us from Jordan over into Israel. So we're on the border of Jordan and Israel. And I said to Madison, "Where are we staying tonight?" She says, "Well, I don't know." I said, "You don't know?" She says, "Well, no, Dad, I don't know." I go, "Why don't you know? You don't have a place for tonight?" She said, "Dad, you need to come down." I said, No. You should have already had this planned. We're going to Israel and we don't have a place to stay. She's like, "Dad, you need to calm down." I'm like, "Oh, I am calm." It rattled me. How can you not have a place to stay?
In a whole nother country.
Exactly. So my wife just stared at me like, "You need to shut up." Like, So I thought, okay. Now remember, my daughter's visited 162 countries already. She travels all the time. She travels this way. So I shut my mouth. She said, "Dad, don't worry about it. I will get us something." Well, guess what? She did. She got us in a hotel that goes all the way back to the 1300s inside the walls of Jerusalem.
Wow. Wow.
But here's what I learned from that. I had to get uncomfortable and trust that my daughter knew what she's doing, because I like to control. Here's the interesting thing. Last year, and by the way, that trip was back in 2018. Last year, my daughter took me for 3 weeks to Europe, to visit World War II sites. I'm a big history nut. And guess what she didn't have every single day? A place to stay. And I was okay with it. I had grown a lot. It just took me a little angst to get there. Now I'm at a place you're like, I'll figure it out when I get there.
There you go.
For me. You see what I mean? And so when was the last time you intentionally did something that made you uncomfortable because you knew it would help you grow? I wrote this. Most people spend enormous energy trying to become comfortable, but healthy people spend their energy, listen, becoming stronger. You said that again? Most people spend enormous energy trying to become uncomfortable, but healthy people spend their energy becoming stronger, more mature. Comfort feels good, folks, doesn't it? Growth makes you better. Comfort doesn't make you better. And these two things are often in competition to each other. So let's talk about comfort. What is comfort? Let's define it for a minute. Comfort is the desire to remain emotionally, mentally, socially, and physically safe. It's about safety. It's about security. And by the way, let me say this. Being comfortable isn't wrong. You get that? So don't see us saying that comfort is wrong. Living in comfort permanently is. Alcoholics, there are many alcoholics who are comfortable with being alcoholics. There are many people who are comfortable being dysfunctional because to change it, i.e., to grow, is scary. And so, why do we love comfort? Here's a thought for you. Our brains are designed for survival, right? So why do we love comfort? Because the brain wants certainty. The brain wants familiarity. The brain likes things being predictable. Me. That's why I want control. It's predictable. The brain wants efficiency. And it likes routine. In other words, you don't think about driving to work. You just do it. It's familiar. It's comfortable. Why? Because if the brain doesn't want to focus on things like that, because the brain wants it wants to work about survival. So if I don't have to think about driving to work, then I can focus on other things. You've been driving to work, and next thing you know, there's a car wreck in front of you, and you have to head a detour. Your brain goes, "What? Detour? I don't want a detour. I just want to go this way," because you built a neural pathway that was comfortable. And so, to the brain, a lot of times, things that are unfamiliar, the brain can see as possibly dangerous. It's a caution, right? And this is why growth feels uncomfortable. It's because it requires us moving into that. And comfort can create illusion. I wrote here, comfort creates illusions, such as I'm fine. Well, I know enough. I've always done it this way. This is just who I am. You heard that one before?
Oh, my goodness.
This is just who I am. Right, Miko?
Oh, yes.
Well, it might be just who you are, but you're a drug addict. You got an anger issue. Well, this is just who I am. What you're really saying is, I'm not changing because this is who I am. Okay, go be you. All right? These statements make people feel safe because they don't have to change. They don't have to transform. They don't have to grow. But those kind of statements have one thing in common. They stop maturing. They stop your ability to mature. They stop your ability to grow. They stop your ability to become a better person. Because what you're really saying is, I like being in my comfort zone. I like being this way. And that's okay. And RelateWell, we say this is a reference to the adolescent immature adult. The adolescent adult wants everything their way. They like to control, right? And so adolescent adults typically think, well, this is the way it is, because they want familiarity to be adulthood. Well, familiarity isn't adulthood, because listen, I'm 64 and I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm in a place right now where I'm having to push myself. I've aligned myself with an organization called Healthy Relations Florida. It's pushing me out of my comfort zone to do some things in that role. But I believe strongly that I need to do it because one, it advances our work statewide, but it also advances RelateWell. But I'm out of my comfort zone in some of the things I've got to do there. It's not who I am naturally, but it also is going to grow me. It's also going to grow me. It's going to challenge me. So there's a hesitation, but not enough to make me hold myself back from growing and maturing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. I noticed Terry was asking about some quotes.
Yeah. Well, I'll come back to
Okay.
that at the end so we can get through the teaching time.
Right. So the second part of our discussion today then is this: growth always requires discomfort. I will say it again: growth always requires discomfort, because growth requires, number one, it requires learning, and learning admits that you don't know something.
Oh,
Did you get that? Learning admits I don't know. And when you can admit that you don't know, you are at your highest level of integrity. Did you get that?
Ooh, say that again.
When you admit that you don't know, you are at your highest level of integrity. Because humility is the most powerful way to live life. And humble people know that there's a lot of things they don't know. And because they know there's a lot of things they don't know, they stay teachable. Thus, they're willing to learn. And learning is the most powerful way of developing oneself. Talking is not learning. Talking is telling people what you know. Learning is about the things you don't know. Only one can grow you. The other doesn't grow you. It just lets everybody know how smart you are.
And well, when we think about it, think about the times in your life where you experience the greatest growth emotionally, spiritually. You were uncomfortable, you were stretched. I remember a season where I was working in my 20s at an international telecommunications company. I was the youngest person on my team, and I did not realize how much I didn't know until I was in that environment. And my manager was this woman of wisdom that really just took me under her wing. But it was hard because there was so much I didn't know, and everyone on my team had many years of experience. And I learned humility, I learned patience, and I learned the power of an amazing mentor and leader that was willing to pour into me. And because I thought I want to be that for someone someday. But that was probably one of my greatest times of professional growth that really laid the foundation for my future career. And so I wouldn't trade it for anything. Now, going through it, it wasn't easy. I mean, I came home many days in tears. I remember one day just falling into my husband's chest, but I'm, in hindsight, I'm thankful for it. So
yeah. So one thing that growth requires is learning. Secondly, and this is a tough one, growth requires risk. R-I-S-K. How many people like taking risk? Not many. All right. And I wrote here, every accomplishment required risk. Getting married required risk. Becoming a parent, you took risks. Leadership requires risk. Business requires risk. Faith. To walk in faith requires what? Risk. One of the greatest pictures of faith in media, for me at least, is I think it was the Indiana Jones where he's trying to find the Holy Grail. And near the end of the movie, he's on that ledge, and there's this massive canyon there, and over there on the other side is another ledge and a cave, right?
Yes.
And there's a gap between them, and he's chanting this old ancient saying, and he puts his foot out over that deep cavern, and in faith he puts his foot down. not knowing there was what? Remember what I'm talking about?
A step.
There was a bridge that was camouflaged. He didn't know it was there. So that is a great picture of risk, because when he put his foot down into that nothingness, he did not know there was a bridge there. And if you remember the movie, he took sand and ran it across so he could see the rest of it. And he ran across to go get the grail. That to me was the greatest picture of faith. Oh, by the way, friendships require risk.
Oh, yes.
Right? Love requires risk. And here's the thing. Nothing is going to happen without vulnerability, because risk requires being vulnerable. And no one likes to be what?
Vulnerable.
Because then we're insecure. We're afraid. We worry. No wonder the scripture says, when I am afraid, I will trust in thee. Faith. But to walk in faith is a risk. And the Lord is saying, trust me. Take a risk, Rick. Walk with me. And when you feel secure in your faith, it's easier to take risks. So growth always requires risk taking. Oh, by the way, in my mind, the biggest risk is the risk of learning who you truly are. The risk of looking in the mirror and seeing your true self and owning that part of you. 30 years ago, when I started my transformation journey, the hardest thing I had to do is look in the mirror. It was easier. I always say it was easier to look out the window and blame everybody else. But to look in the mirror took a risk, because then I had to recognize, well, I am passive aggressive. I am emotionally a child. I am manipulative. And I didn't want to see those things. But all that was a risk. But I was willing to take the risk to look in the mirror and see what God already knew about me, because I wanted to grow. I want to be a better man. I want to be a better father. I want to leave a different legacy that I would have left like my dad and my stepmom did. You see, here's another thing that you have to deal with when you start to grow. You have to deal with failure. Get used to it. You're going to mess up and you're going to fail at times.
Yes. You
are going to mess up. But let me say this. Failing at something isn't proof that you shouldn't try again. Let me define what a failure is. People think a failure is a person who failed at something. That actually isn't true. A failure is someone who tried at something. They failed at whatever they are trying, and then they did something. What is it, Miko?
They stopped. They didn't
quit.
They quit.
Gave up.
But yeah,
gave up.
Failure that doesn't mean final unless you make it final.
There in the personal growth field, there's a phrase that says, in every failure is the seed of an equivalent success.
Ooh.
In other words, what entrepreneurs know, because they fail at things, but they're not failures. Why? They don't give up. They study the failure, figure out what they did, learn from it, go plant that, and become successful.
They use it as a stepping stone.
Yes. And they're learning from the failures. They learn the failures. One of the things that the Navy SEALs do, after every mission, they tear apart the mission. They rip it apart. They learn from it. They're constantly growing. What could we have done different? What could we have done better? Yeah, the mission was successful, but what could we do done different? How could we have avoided this? Why? They're learning from what they do. They're learning from things that happen. That's the highest level of integrity, is to constantly learn. Also, and this is another thing about growth, it requires stretching yourself. Oh my gosh. If I had to stretch myself in 30 years, and we ain't talking gaining weight stretching, all right?
No.
We do that a little bit. That's another form of stretching, but that's not what we're talking about here. You know, I wrote here, muscles grow because resistance creates microscopic tears. Character develops the same way. No resistance, no strength.
No, that's right. That's right.
So what's that frame? No gain without pain?
Yeah, no pain, no
pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain.
Exactly. Exactly.
And let me just say this, there is a difference in the pain. So I would be a gym rat if I could. I do like exercising. There's a difference in the pain of breaking down that muscle so that it can repair and become stronger. Okay, the soreness, the fatigue, and then there's the pain associated with injury. Two different pains. One is for your good, one is harmful. Okay, so we're talking about the good pain that elicits growth and maturity and you being the best version of yourself. Mhm.
Yes. All right. Now, here's a quote for you. The greatest enemy of tomorrow's growth is today's comfort.
Oh, oh,
How many times have we made a choice to put something aside or not do something day after day? And by making the decision to, I'll do that tomorrow, you're preventing your growth. You're hindering your transformation for the sake of what's familiar, what's comfortable.
yeah.
The greatest enemy of tomorrow's growth is today's comfort. All right. So now, what is the hidden cost of comfort? If we're saying comfort is an enemy to growth, and it is, then what's the cost of staying comfortable? So here's some thoughts I wrote down. Comfort has consequences. Comfortable marriages become disconnected. If you become comfortable in your marriage, then you're no longer intentional.
Mhm.
You're just expecting it to happen. The problem is healthy marriages don't just happen, they're created
That's
and
right.
sustained and maintained, just like your lawn. All right. Uh, People stop dating, they stop pursuing each other, and they stop learning each other. My wife and I have been together 42 years. I'm still learning things about that woman, and she's still learning things about me.
Hmm.
Another cost of comfort, leadership. Comfortable leaders, they stop growing. They'll stop listening, they stop reading, they stop asking questions, and they stop improving. Comfortable parents stop adapting. Children change, so you must as well. If you're still
Hmm.
spanking a 16-year-old, you got problems.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
parenting is pretty bad. And by the way, let me say this. Um, I think I raised pretty healthy kids. They're all adults in their 30s now. I raised them on the things I teach and relate well, and the things I was learning as I was maturing and growing up. But I told my kids, I'm not your parent anymore. If I'm parenting you as an adult, I failed you. You parent children, you don't parent adults. So I told my kids, I'm not your parent anymore. Your dad, that's your mom. We'll be mentors or coaches for you if you want us to, but we're not parenting anymore.
Hmm.
You're adults. You parent children to learn to parent themselves. That's what they have to learn self-control. Children change, so parents must grow with them. Oh, by the way, comfortable Christians stop trusting God. Your faith becomes routine. So now you're just going to church routinely. And your faith's no longer an adventure. There's not a lot of joy in it. You've lost the joy of your salvation. You're saved. You just lost the joy. Why? Because your faith became routine. I have learned in all these years, Father's still teaching me. He's still maturing me. I'm amazed at watching him use me in certain ways or put people around me that I can influence. I'm like, wow, Lord, you're using a broken vessel to do that for people's lives. This is cool
Hmm.
and exciting to serve. And I'm excited to see what God is doing around me. I think I can say this with goodwill, because I think Nico would believe it when I say it. One of the greatest joys I've been given in my life is that woman right there in pink. We met,
Oh,
we met when she came and did a training that I did for Celebration Church. And then she became a groupie after that, which I didn't know. So she ended up getting a job at the ministry I worked at, just so she can be around me.
stalker. Just
And one of the neatest things was we got to know each other, became friends. And she was always picking my brain, picking my brain, picking my brain. And I got to mentor her. through some challenges in her own life as a parent, but she's always teachable. She's always growing. One of the greatest things about my faith was I was able to take all that Father gave me. There's Dr. Linda coming in back in.
I got it. Mm-hmm.
I was able to take all that Father was teaching me, and I got to put it into my dear friend, Mika. The skills and the things he's taught me, I've got to watch her transform and her grow to the place that she doesn't need me. And that old saying is, I've decreased, she increases. That's what you're seeing. But all of that was faith transformation for her, and it was transforming my faith to see God do a work through me and her. That made my faith walk adventurous.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. I say that not just to build you up, because just to give an example of that was one of the things that in my journey of life and my faith journey, my faith was adventurous through all of that. Comfortable people often become entitled, cynical, defensive, fearful, and stagnant. And I think that's the worst one. They're stagnant. They're not moving. Comfortable. Listen, there is a point in time your comfort becomes captivity. It becomes a prison. Your comfort.
That's a word.
Yeah. You become a captive. It becomes a prison to you. True growth. You're always working. You're always growing. You're always learning. You're transforming, looking in the mirror, changing things about yourself. Why? You're never a captive. You're always on a journey of transformation. You're maturing. My phrase is this: I am maturing in love day by day, week by week, month by month. And I want to be more mature in love next year than I am today. And I am more mature in love than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Just ask my wife. She'll tell you. My kids will tell you. And maturity in love is a lifelong journey. Enjoy the journey. All right. So what is the psychology growth here? As we kind of wrap up, growth begins with humility. Humility says there may be a better way. We talk about the wheel of knowledge in our work. Things you know, you don't know, you don't know. Growth means I'm going to stay in the world. If I don't know, The things I don't know, so I'm going to stay teachable. Humility is required for that to happen. Plus, you need emotional regulation. You've got to be able to take a deep breath and not get defensive, not strike out. When you have self-control, you can stay teachable. You're out of the animal brain, right? We believe in our world, you use what we call HREG, humility, respect, empathy, goodwill, as the way to mature and to stay regulated. HREG is our core relational values that we teach and live by. We also believe strongly that HREG is just a way to operationalize the word love. Because love is humble, love is respectful, it is empathic, and it is goodwill. All right. And then here are some decisions every person needs to make. 5 growth decisions you got to make. And then we're going to turn it over to Miko to wrap up tonight. Decision 1, choose curiosity over certainty. Ask the question, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? So choose curiosity over certainty. Number 2, choose courage over comfort. Feel the fear, move anyways.
That's right.
Don't let fear hold you back. Feel the fear, move anyways. That's what courage is. Courage is movement in the face of fear.
Do it afraid.
Yeah. Decision 3, choose responsibility over excuses. Growth begins the moment excuses end. Decision 4, choose teachability over defensiveness. Every difficult person has something to teach us, even if it's what not to become. I have learned from some people in my life, I have learned from them, I will never be like you. Matter of fact, I spent my life to make sure I'm not like my dad or my stepmom. I will never, ever, ever parent like you, and I will never, ever, ever treat my children the way you treated us. I learned what not to be.
Yes.
And then I had a Marshall Davis and a Dudley Freeman and a Mary Jo Freeman. And I learned I want to be them. And I strove to be like them, godly men and women in our lives that God put. mentors and teachers. I want to be like them, but I had to learn who they were and how they got there so I can get there. And decision 5, choose progress over perfection. Remember, if you seek to be perfect, you will never arrive. Don't choose perfection, choose excellence. They're not the same. Don't choose perfection, choose excellence. All right? Mm-hmm. Perfection keeps you stuck. Growth celebrates improvement. Yes. Okay, Nico, take it away.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.